So today we will learn about plot in literature. What is plot? In a narrative or creative writing, a plot is the sequence of events that make up a story, whether it's told, written, filmed, or sung. The plot is the story and more specifically, how the story develops, unfolds, and moves in time. There are 5 stages of plot. At the beginning of the story, it is known as exposition, followed up by rising action, and the middle of the story is known as climax, then followed up by falling action, and lastly, the end of the story as resolution. Exposition is at the beginning of the story. Characters, setting, and the main conflict are typically introduced. Rising action is where the main character is in crisis and events leading up to the facing the conflict begin to unfold. The story becomes complicated. Next is climax. At the peak of the story, a major event occurs in which the main character faces a major enemy, fear, challenge, or other source of conflict. The most action, drama, change, and excitement occurs here. Falling action, where the story begins to slow down and work towards its end, tying up loose ends. Resolution, also known as the denouement, the resolution is like a concluding paragraph that resolve any remaining issues and ends the story. Types of plots. There are many types of plots in the world, but realistically, most of them fit some pattern that we can see in more than one story. Here are some classic plots that can be seen in numerous stories all over the world throughout history. The first one is overcoming the monster. The protagonist must defeat a monster or force in order to save some people, usually everybody in the story. Most often, the protagonist is forced into this conflict and comes out of it as a hero or even a king. This is one version of the world's most universal and compelling plot, the monomyth, described by the great thinker Joseph Campbell. Example of this plot is Harry Potter and Star Wars. Next is tragedy. The protagonist experiences a conflict which leads to a very bad ending, typically death. Uh, types examples of story that use this plot is Romeo and Juliet and Macbeth. And lastly is Rex to riches. The story can begin with the protagonist being poor or rich, but at some point the protagonist will have everything, lose everything, and then gain it all back by the end of the story after experiencing great personal growth. We example of this that of story that uses this plot is Cinderella. The importance of using plot. The plot is what makes a story a story. It gives the story character development, suspense, energy, and emotional release, also known as catharsis. It allows an author to develop themes and, most importantly, conflict that makes a story emotionally engaging. Everybody knows that how hard it is to stop watching a movie before the conflict is resolved. That's all for today's class. Is there any question?